Hey, let's go get some ethnic food. I can't tell you how often I hear this from the college students I work with, and it bothers me every time. The reality is, all food is ethnic food, coming from someone's particular culture. There is no normal food. This is a hard thing for college students to wrap their minds around. And the extension of this is even more difficult. That is, all people have ethnicity. That's right, even white people are ethnic. The students I work with go to college campuses comprised of about 80% white people. These colleges are in central Pennsylvania, which is made up of over 90% white people. These kind of numbers make it easy for a white student to think that they themselves define what is normal, or for a white student to never really think about their race, ethnicity, or culture at all. And it makes students who are not white tired of their race, ethnicity, and culture being treated as other. College students learn about these abstract concepts in sociology classes and in conversations they have around campus. They acquire new ideas and terms, but are not personally involved in anything they're learning. So here's the twist. My wife and I invite college students to come live with us in our urban neighborhood for 6 weeks during the summer. We live in a neighborhood in southeast Lancaster City, which is less than 20% white. On our short block alone, we have neighbors who are white, Native American, African American, Haitian, Vietnamese, Puerto Rican, and Dominican. A student coming to live in our neighborhood for the summer is in for a learning experience very different than the sociology classroom. The student is stepping into an apprenticeship, a cognitive apprenticeship, where their learning about race, ethnicity, and culture is situated in new relationships with neighbors, where they observe my wife and I modeling what it means to be aware of and comfortable with one's own ethnicity, even being white. And we coach them on exploring their own race, ethnicity, and culture. We push the students to explore questions that we ourselves don't know the answers to yet. We enter these conversations as participants and partners and occasionally guides. We are transparent with our own thought processes in these conversations so that the students can again observe. To foster this deep learning, we ask students to strive to be fully present in this neighborhood at this time, which means embracing a number of limitations. Living in a house full of people with cramped personal space, agreeing to stay within city limits during the 6 weeks of the project, and limiting media consumption and cutting out TV watching altogether. All this for the sake of engaging fully with their immediate surroundings. Even with all these massive changes and everything being new, it turns out that the most difficult relationships were the ones within the house. The 2 Puerto Rican students living in the house last summer voiced conflict with their 9 white American housemates. Their point was simple and direct. We aren't allowed to watch TV because it takes away from house relationships and our time together. So why is it okay for you to spend our downtime sitting in communal spaces covering your face with a book? The white students got defensive. We're just trying to learn new things and enjoy stories. Reading is a nice way to quietly enjoy each other's company. To which the Puerto Rican students responded, in our families, reading around other people is about acting pretentious and blowing off the other people in the room. So we'll ask you again, please don't cover your face with a book. The white students responded, so what do we do? We want to be sensitive in this cross-cultural conversation as we've been learning about this summer. So do we say no reading at all? No reading in public living space? No reading at certain times of the day? This went back and forth for a while. My wife was facilitating this conversation, and this time she sat back and forced the students to stay involved, to ask questions, and to respond to each other. The students so far in the summer have been supported with a learning scaffolding at each new experience. But here, she was fading out the amount of direction she offered, letting them struggle to really hear each other. Finally, there was new understanding on both sides. Up until this point, all of the white students had been hearing the request from the Puerto Rican students in the same way, not literally, but as the idiom, have your nose in a book. The Puerto Rican students made it clear they're not using this idiom. They're not asking the white students not to read. They are saying, when you do read in public space, literally, please do not cover your face with a book. Just hold the book a little lower so other people can see your face and not feel cut off from you. This is what it means to read socially. In turn, the white students make it clear they're not reading to be pretentious or socially distant, but simply to enjoy a good story. At this point, my wife jumps in to point out that the students haven't just learned how to read socially. They've learned something important about how to have a conversation with someone from a different background than yourself. This new knowledge ends up being transferred to many new settings for the rest of the summer. Covering your face with a book becomes shorthand for all new cross-cultural perspectives and tension. Our students went back to their campuses in the fall, not needing an assessment of whether or not they learned something about race, ethnicity, and culture in America, because they simply could look at each other. They experienced the conflict firsthand, walked through it, kept the friendship going, and in the end, discovered a new way to be together. This is Brett Stout-Willett. Thanks for listening to my digital story.